Okay, welcome to today's lesson on ways of talking. We did ways of walking last week, so now we're going to do ways of talking. There are a lot of verbs for talking, and once again, if you want to see some of these verbs in action, just try reading any kind of literature and you'll see lots of these verbs in any books, because authors like to describe people talking quite often, and they use a lot of these different words, just as they do for people walking as well. So I'm going to start with the ones more connected to inaudible sounds. Inaudible just means quiet, or it literally means it's not possible to be heard. And obviously a whisper is a very quiet way of talking. It's when you whisper something to someone, maybe a secret or something that other people shouldn't hear. But these three words, mutter, mumble and murmur, all have an inaudible element in them as well. I think that when somebody mutters something, it doesn't mean loud, it means quiet, if anything. And if somebody mumbles or murmurs something, then it's so quiet that it's incoherent. And I think you have to remember that a lot of these words, the next two as well, they're a little bit onomatopoeic. And what I mean is the sound of the verb represents the sound that it's describing. And so when people mumble, they mumble, blum, 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 and it's incoherent, and they're making sounds very similar to mumble. And when they murmur, it's incoherent, but it's more murmur, murmur, murmur. And so you might say it about an audience, perhaps, who are watching, I don't know, some kind of presentation, and during the break you can hear the audience murmuring or mumbling, but it's not clear what they're saying. And these two are also in the incoherent column. When you gabble or gibber, it's quick and incoherent. So it's a very fast form of speech, too fast for people to understand. And so you should try and avoid gabbling or gibbering. Gibber actually sounds hysterical. I think there's a hysterical element when somebody gibbers. Perhaps they've had some kind of terrible shock, or something has really upset them or made them afraid. So they become a gibbering wreck. Yeah, they start to gibber. They're having hysterics. But gabble would just be quick and incoherent, and so it's not good to gabble. You should try and enunciate your words nice and clearly. If you waffle or ramble, and you can often see these in the phrasal verb, waffle on about, ramble on about. That's how you would describe what they're talking about, but it's aimless. There's something where there's no direction in their speech. They're talking about one topic and then another topic and then another topic, and they never get to the point. And so it could be even described as a little bit negative to waffle on about or ramble on about something. You shouldn't waste your time and waffle away, ramble away. Please try and recognise how we're using these prepositions differently after these verbs, after the root verb. Anyway, they're very similar. Now here are 4 impediments. So these are ways which prevent someone from speaking clearly. Firstly, a lisp. A lisp is when somebody always pronounces their S's. I have a little bit of a lisp if you listen carefully on these videos, and so it's when the S sound is coming out too often, too frequently. Stutter is when somebody has a problem with usually a consonant sound or a hard sound, and they repeat that sound, so they this would be described as a stutter. Sometimes you'll hear people use the word stammer, but I think this is less an impediment and more when somebody's nervous, they may stammer. But you can use stutter as well. He stuttered because he was nervous. So it's when you repeat the same letter or the same sound. Slur is related to when you're drunk. If you're drunk, then you slur your words, and it's when you slur the words together and it sounds like there's no spaces between the words. All the words, the whole sentence sounds like one word. And tongue-tied is when you're too shy to speak. You're speechless because you're so shy. So maybe you meet the woman of your dreams and then suddenly you become tongue-tied. You can't speak. Okay, all of these, I suppose we like complaining in England because we got a lot of verbs for complaining. I think the top three are more often used for adults, although they can be used for kids. There's nothing wrong with that. And the bottom two, I think, are very often used with kids. You know, when a baby whines, it's actually crying. It's like that. But obviously, young children also whine quite often and go, and they get in bad moods and they complain and complain and complain. This would be whinging or whining as well. And I've just put here some prepositions. Whinge at someone, but whinge about something. And the same goes for all of these. Maybe not chatter actually, but you can bicker about something, you can gossip about something. Yeah, not the at someone though, gossip with someone and bicker with someone. So these two don't work. But for all of these, moan at someone, grumble at someone about this, that or the other. So they work very well here. And so they're all ways of complaining with some childish ones at the bottom. Gossip, I think most people will understand. It's when you spread some kind of rumours. You talk about perhaps people's private lives, but other people's private lives. Then you gossip about them. So it's still gossip about. Bicker is argue. That's all bicker means. It basically means argue, but again, very often used for when young children are arguing. We then say, stop bickering, stop arguing. Yeah, stop bickering with each other. So bicker with someone, gossip with someone. And chatter, it's like natter, very similar. And it means just light conversation, not serious, just chatter. It could even be meaningless if it's chatter, but it is just small talk would be chatter. Small talk would be a kind of chatter when people are chattering away about something. And this is it, you chatter away or you natter away about something. And it does give the impression of a lot of talk, but just light talk. Okay, some loud verbs now, in contrast with the quiet ones. You can yell, scream, roar or shriek. Yell gives a sense of urgency. You yell when you're in trouble. When you want something done immediately, you yell. Scream is just a loud ah! It's a little bit different from shout, which is actually, shout would be with words, yeah? Shout is when you make a sentence. Scream is when you're just afraid and you go, ah! So it's not really a way of talking, scream. Shout is a way of talking. Scream is just a reaction to something scary. Roar is when you speak very loudly in a low pitch. It's a low voice, a roar. Shriek is the opposite, it's high pitched. So you might say the cat shrieked or something like that, because a cat has a very high pitch scream. It has a very loud and high pitched scream. Okay, there are a lot of phrasal verbs with talking. These are not all of them at all. I'm sure there are many, many others. But you can rabbit on about something, go on about something, or bang on about something, and they all mean talk too much about something. And so maybe you think that I've been rabbiting on about ways of talking for the last few minutes. You can also ramble on about something. I've said this earlier, this was aimless. It's like waffle on about something. And if you drone on about something, then it's boring and it sounds like it's very monotonous, the same sound again and again and again in the same sentence. So it's boring. Wind someone up is when you aggravate someone, you irritate them, you annoy them. And so if you're winding someone up, you're teasing them on purpose. Yeah, I would even say tease or annoy. Yeah, you're doing it on purpose to get a reaction out of them and to make them get annoyed. If you slag someone off, you say bad things about them. Perhaps you gossip about them behind their back and say what an awful person they are, or what a rude person they are. If you butter someone up, then you try to be really nice to that person, but in order to achieve some kind of goal. And so it's quite negative. It could be positive. It could be neutral, in fact, because I can think of situations where it's perhaps not so bad to butter someone up. But it's when you do nice things, but you have an ulterior motive. You have some reason why you're buttering them up. And so say nice things to someone to get some kind of reaction here. It's still a way of talking in a sense. Natter away is just aimless speech, again a bit like when you ramble on, you natter away, you chatter away, it's light speech, it's not serious. Bring something up is just mention a topic, so you might bring something up at the meeting to make sure that everybody is aware of this particular issue. You might point something out, which is a bit like highlight something when you're speaking. You highlight something, you point something out at the meeting to bring everybody's attention to the fact that this is the case. You can also tell on someone, which would be the same as inform on someone, grass someone up, tip off the authorities about that person. And you can tell someone off, which is similar to reprimand someone. It's when you say, oh, naughty, naughty, you shouldn't have done that. So teachers have to tell off their pupils. If they have young pupils and they're misbehaving, the teacher will perhaps tell them off. Okay, if you have any questions about any of these talking verbs, please ask under the video and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all soon.